Our Father in heaven, as we prepare to discuss the agenda at our council meeting this evening, we wish to first of all thank Thee for the opportunity to live in this good area. We're grateful for the good weather we've had this summer, that the crops are looking well, and that we've had gardens and harvests. We're also grateful for the many good people in our community that serve in many ways. And as we try to serve the best that we can, we pray that Thou would bless us with wisdom as we discuss the agenda this evening. And these things we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Maggie.
All right. Well, today is the 9th of August, and we have our regular Cardston Town Council meeting. We should have a delegation at 5 o'clock and another one at 5:30. So we're going to call the meeting to order.
5:30 delegation is coming at 4:30.
All right, thank you. Okay. So we're going to recognize our media, Corey McCarthy for Channel 32. Thank you. And we have no card to address us regarding some bylaw issues later on. Thank you for being here. So we have the agenda and we need to adopt it. Councillor Barfuss?
So just with the change on the
Right.
the
Delegation.
delegation, so I'll move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Okay. Any questions, comments? No? All in favor? Thank you. All right, we may as well move on and go to item 5, adoptions of minutes of July the 12th, 2016.
I so move that we adopt the minutes of July 12th.
Okay, thank you. Any question? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. All right, so let's move along. We have bylaws and policies on the 6th. 6A is bylaw 1553, the West Area Structure Plan. So Nolan, is that the one you are going to address? So please, if you'd like to come and help us with this one.
Okay, so if you pull up the colored map that's there, that's the, and then you take the other one that's just black and white. The black and white one shows kind of what's there, and the black lines show roads that we're going to have to close at some point in order to make it fit the West Area Structure Plan. And if you go back to the colored one, each of the different colors shows different people's portions of those roads that they're going to end up getting into to consolidate into their land. Mine, they do have to give us other roads later on when they subdivide. So if you look at the pink lines there, that's along Darren Shaw's property. He's going to get 610 feet by 39 feet, which is 23,790 square feet. That is a portion of that 9th Street that we'll need to close. If you look at the yellow one, that is Ben Balsma's. He gets 484 square feet by, or 484 by 39, which is 18,876 square feet. He would actually give us a little bit of that lane entrance already too when we do this. If you go to the red one, that is a portion, that road is in there now, and that's a portion that we would close, and the town would actually take ownership of those lots. There's a proposal of 4 lots to be in that area. They're quite good sized lots. It's 600 feet by 90 feet, so that's 54,000 square feet that we would gain and have as lots to sell. Not in the immediate future, but once these guys do the next subdivisions, we would end up with those lots. Doug Campbell has 2 little sections. His is the orange one on the west side there. His ends up being, it's 260 by 6 feet and 284 by 39 feet. So it's 12,636 square feet. And then Mr. Brunel, he is the blue one, he is the reason that we're looking at this, because he's wanting to do a subdivision to bring those into blocks. And he would actually give us a road down the middle, he would give us 8A Avenue at the same time. So even though his looks like it's quite a bit, it's 64,032 square feet, we would actually get almost that exact same amount back in the roads that he would have to give us. But when talking with Ryan, because this involves so many different landowners, he figures that the town should take the initiative and do the road closure. Then we could, whatever it costs us to do that, we could proportion each portion of that amount to the landowners and keep it to their properties. And when they actually do their subdivisions, they would have to pay us that amount as a levy.
All right, so thank you so much for explaining this bylaw with the road closures that are involved regarding the west area structure plan. Councillors, do you have questions? Councillor Bengry and then Councillor Barfuss.
Nolan, can you tell me where the infrastructure is running right now to these different lots?
There isn't any infrastructure in the area right now. It comes up 8A a little ways for Travis Harris's house.
Right.
And then there is one water line that comes off of 7th Avenue West that comes down into Vermel's place. It's just a one water service. So there really isn't any infrastructure in there right now.
So where is the water and the sewer for Mountain Heights and all of those places?
Mountain comes off 7th Avenue.
So everything's coming off 7th Avenue right now?
Yep.
And so we would take everything from 7th Avenue south?
Well, if Kronen goes ahead with his subdivision, he would have to bring the sewer and water up 8A Avenue, up into there, so that he could access his properties.
Okay.
Then he's aware of that.
He's aware of that.
Councillor Barfuss?
Okay, explain to me again, we're taking land away from them to close those roads?
No.
In this case, we're actually
Oh, you're giving them some land?
giving them land.
Okay.
To close portions of, the roads there are 99 feet wide.
Okay,
We only need 60 feet, so we're taking 39 feet off.
okay, so, and giving them
And we
to,
would give that to them, but they, in their subdivisions later on, will have to give us roads too,
yeah,
which will be as much or more than what we would give back to them.
okay, and what would be the levy then? Are we talking about when
The
they?
levy would be the cost that it costs us to do this subdivision and closure of the roads.
Okay,
We don't know the exact cost yet. We're trying to get the surveyor to give it to us, but it's probably going to be more than $10,000.
and so is that cost proportionate to each landowner, or
We
is that?
would- We would divide it up proportionately to each landowner.
Okay,
Okay, Councillor.
Yeah, so Nolan, the ownership of the lands now, you've indicated like who owns the land that this, where the roads are being closed. So the other roads, they don't exist presently, like, you know,
Yeah,
10th Street, 9th Street,
No, they don't, they don't exist right now.
they don't exist.
9th Street is actually the 99-foot street there.
Right.
10th Street is there now.
Mhm.
Well, it does exist.
9A is there now.
Yes,
That's why
okay.
we're closing portions of them to get them down to the right width that we want, and closing the full widths where we don't need them. And then when these guys do subdivisions, they will have to add in the roads.
So does the town own those
The town
roads
owns those roads right now.
right now, the way that's laid out? So we already
All
own them?
the colored pieces, we already own.
And the roads where they will go in, the town owns those?
We do not own those yet.
Oh, we don't own those?
That's a caveat
Oh.
that will be put on the property.
That would have to be, at the time that they actually subdivide their lots, they would have to give us those roads.
Well, that's what I was wondering. So how is it that the town owns the little parts that we're closing, but not the?
Because it was subdivided years and years ago, and there was a trailer park area done up there, and these roads were all put in.
Mhm.
and they were 99 feet wide, and
Yeah.
a lot of things. And
I'm just thinking like, for instance, 9th Street, do we still own, the whole 99 feet through there?
We do right
So
now.
we own that whole road, and then the
Yeah.
parts that we're closing, we'll give back to
We
the
will
adjacent land.
consolidate to the owners beside us.
Okay, and then 7A Avenue, do we own that road?
7A Avenue is proposed road right now.
We don't own it
It's
yet.
not actually there yet.
Okay, so,
If you're looking at the roads, the black lines are what is there now. The colored lines, the green and the purple lines, are the proposed plan for the area.
okay. So some of those proposed roads, we don't own, but
We do not own
But if
any
the
of them hardly.
landowners subdivide, they would
They
give
would
those
have to give them to us, yeah.
back to the town.
Okay, Councillor Bengry?
2 questions, Nolan. Retention pond, where is that going to be located?
In the Shaw's plan, the retention pond was going to be on the corner of 8th Street that you see there.
Right.
And 8A Avenue. There's those 2 lots right in the corner.
Yeah.
Was the original plan for the retention pond for
Okay.
that area.
Okay, now, the next one deals with Darren. He's very aggressive. How does he feel about this road?
Right now, he's working on a subdivision to subdivide some pieces off of his house, but we haven't
South.
actually included the road closure into it yet. We've talked to him about that we could possibly do this.
So he's looking favorably at this then?
I think he would be favorable to
Is
this.
his shed sitting on that pink land?
His shed is sitting on the pink line.
Okay. That solves that problem.
All right. Okay, so here is probably what you may want for us, possibly. You probably would like to have a motion for administration to proceed with the development bylaw with the road closure. Is that something like that you would want?
I still have another question.
readings on it.
Looking into it until we come to figure out the price.
Get colors.
bring it back to council.
So I guess what we're looking for is an emotion to direct us to look into the cost further and get the actual costs of it, and then prepare a bylaw to start the process, because road closures take up to a year to do.
Well, that's the whole point. So if we start today, you can get the ball
We can
rolling a
start
little
moving,
quicker.
we start moving forward. We've actually talked to the surveyors, and they're kind of in the process of getting us a cost, so we might know exactly what it would be, and then we can start looking at doing a bylaw.
Okay, so the motion would be to cost, to determine the cost
And prepare.
and prepare a bylaw, a development bylaw.
Okay, on the... Yes. Nolan, when and if these subdivisions do go through, then services are going to have to be brought into those areas. Who pays for those services?
Landowner.
The policies that we have in place right now say that the landowners pay for the services to be put in.
So they'll have to put in the roads, the sewers, the garbage, and, or
Roads, sewers.
gutters, and
Yes,
the whole, they pay for all that.
That's-
Street lights and...
That's
That's
the
policy
policy we have in place.
P45-1-1.
Okay.
That's what the policy is, and it's right inside your packet.
Yeah, I'm just asking the question.
Right there, no, it's...
Mayor, if there's no other questions, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
I'm prepared to make a motion to give direction to our administration to bring back the costs of the road closures and the preparation for the preparing a bylaw, developing a bylaw for this. Is that all you need, administration?
All right, so for the west area structure.
Yes, the western instruction.
More precise. Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. So here is a motion. All right, we still have a better time, so let's go to 6B. We cannot deal with this one until we have the hearing. So let's go to 6C. It's the advertising policy. As you can see, that is a policy that has some wording in there that is now encompassed in our communication bylaw policy. Right, exactly. And therefore, it is irrelevant, so we need to rescind it. Yeah.
I'm
Councillor
correct
Barfuss?
to move that we rescind policy A15, the advertising policy.
Okay. Any questions? You made the proper comment. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. So
guess-
this one is,
Now, question,
yes?
once we rescinded is what, because we rescinded this, is there a new policy in place for any?
There is, the
Policy
communication policy is already there,
It's already in
Councillor.
place.
Thank you.
So it's, yeah, if you look in your packet, just a page
It's
after
the internet.
policy A15, you would have policy C15-2-2.
Okay.
That is the communication policy that we have presently. Okay? So we're going to go under 7. Very surprising, we can move so fast.
Let's keep moving.
All right.
We're not complaining.
It's level 1, a peace officer consideration. As you could see in your document, Jeff has kindly put a table for you to help you do some comparative. So maybe Jeff, if you want to go through those figures, that might help us a little.
So very simply, Council, and thank you, Mayor, what I looked at was in the first column, year 2016, this is all of our current costs for bylaw, animal control, liaison. So they're all out there for us to see. And then what I considered is, and I want to just touch on where I got a couple of numbers. The salary, the bylaw wage, that came from, I took the middle of the road pay scale of the Ridge Commission. So I had some conversation with Curtis and said, look, eventually if we ended up consolidating down the road, I want to make sure that if we hire somebody, it's on a relative pay scale to the commission. So we're not trying to deal with that. Plus it also tells me what the competitive wage range is for that position in the area, because I didn't really know, and they have 3 officers within that scale. So that's the middle of that scale. The next thing I looked at under animal control was, my intent would be that, and it would be up to council's discretion as well, is if we bring in a level 1 peace officer, we would look for someone in the community we could contract who isn't a peace officer of any kind, but could do animal control for us. So they would commit to so many hours per week of patrolling the community and then also responding to calls. And we would have someone locally that could do animal control. Our peace officer would still deal with fining and collection of fees and all that stuff. They have to do that under their authority under the Act. So any aggressive dogs or those kind of things, our peace officer would still deal with. But day to day, you know, trapping a skunk and picking up a dog from Main Street, we don't need to have our level 1 officer doing that per se. I think we could find someone in the community. So I put a number that was essentially, you know, 3 days a week or 2.5 days a week for somebody at a reasonable hourly rate to do that in the community on a contract basis.
And then 25,000, 26,000.
Yeah, I just put an inflationary piece on it too, year over year.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the fines revenue because this plays a big piece in it. If the fines revenues are what I have stated here, it's actually cheaper for us to get a level 1 peace officer than current. But where I got that number was I got the numbers from the Ridge Commission and what each community last 2 years ago, I guess, took in fines. I simply divided it by their population of Raymond and McGrath. I just took those 2, I didn't take the counties. So I took Raymond and McGrath, divided the total fines they took in by population, averaged them and multiplied it by our population
That works.
to get a per capita fine amount per year.
We'll
Now-
make that much down by cobblestone.
Well, yeah, that's right. But it sounds like a really big number, but if you think about it, that is 2 days a week taking in $500. And I think
That's
that's
only three.
like 3 tickets, 2 days a week.
It will continue.
And I think we'll see that happening. But I do want to explain in 2017, while it's my full intention to have a level 1 peace officer rolling January 1, I only put half of the fine revenue in 2017 because I think we owe it to the community to do a pretty aggressive education campaign over the first while of 2017, so that they know the peace officer can do moving violations, so they start to understand the scope of that position. And so I had that lower, that maybe the first few months are, unless it's egregious, they're warnings. But, you know, if someone happens to not have a seatbelt, or they get pulled over by the pool, you know, we can do a fairly aggressive education until that position is better understood in the community.
All right, questions?
Yeah, that's, I was gonna suggest, I know in other communities where they brought in peace officers and people weren't aware of that, the first month they got warnings.
Yeah.
And said, next time,
Yeah.
there's no warnings, next month.
I mean, a transition period is not a
Yeah.
bad thing when you haven't had such a system.
I think the one thing we do need to be cautious of is, and I'm just reflecting back to what happened in Rankin when we first started, which,
Yeah, I hate on
yeah, the councillors were getting phone calls on a regular basis because it was very strictly enforced in areas that previously hadn't been. So I think it's a good education process would be really important there.
Wouldn't be a bad thing, maybe if we can even do a flyer or something. delivery.
Well, I mentioned to the mayor, I have no problem using our social media to say, next week the peace officer will be patrolling the town square playground for speeding. Now you know.
Right.
You know, we might as well make it very aware. And what it will do is it will cause everyone to slow down, which is what you want.
Because the purpose is
That's
not to
the
generate
point.
fine revenue, it's to make the
to
place
educate.
safe.
It's to slow people down.
People.
So I have no problem for all next year even, stating where and when that officer will be patrolling.
You can go to any radio station in any city,
Yeah.
and they're going to tell you
They tell
exactly
you
where the
where they are.
forward radars are.
Yeah.
And so, and if you get a ticket, too bad.
Councillor Bengry, you wanted to say something?
Okay, we're talking about level 1 peace officer where he's got the ability to hand out tickets and fines. What's the cost as far as legal is concerned?
So you'll see, and this may be a little bit modest, I put $5,000 a year in with the level 1 for those times when we may need to call in a little bit of help for enforcement of larger tickets.
That's about 2 phone calls and about
Well,
a
you're,
letter.
yeah, $350 an hour doesn't go far, you're absolutely right, and that's why I would hope, we'll use our discretion as to which ones we lawyer up to enforce,
Yeah.
right? We're gonna have to walk away from some that simply aren't worth it. And then where there's a principal here and we need to send a message or it's large enough, then we have that money for legal. So I added $5,000 additional a year for legal costs, assuming that we were gonna have enforcement costs. And that may end up being low, Councillor, for a while it might.
Yeah. But a good question, Councillor. Councillor Edmonds?
So is he gonna live in town?
Well, so the difficult answer to that is, I don't know. Because they could simply live anywhere as long as they can perform the duties. I
No, I
can't.
was thinking it might be safer to live out of.
To be honest, if I had somebody that said, listen, I live in Spring Coulee and I haven't advertised yet, so if anyone listens to this, I don't mean that'll give me an advantage. But yeah, if they happen to live in Jefferson and came in every day and then went out to the farm at night, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Councillor Bengry?
You're right. I think that was sort of an off question, because the reason why, I was a town police officer in 1968, 69. Those were pretty wild years, because that's when I was growing up. We had 3 officers in town. None of us ever got harassed, or if we got, whatever you want to call it, threatened. We were big enough. We could take care of our business. So, and I think it's important that if we have a police officer, a level 1 peace officer, that he does live in town. People can see that he's taking part of the community. RCMP live in town. They're involved in, their families are involved in sports and stuff like that. I'd love to see him involved in the community.
All right.
That way he's got a one-on-one with the citizens.
Okay, well,
Times have changed.
Oh, they're not changing that much.
we will allow the administrator to do the hiring.
I think proximity is important though, Councillor. I mean,
Yeah.
but I say proximity.
Yes.
And,
close.
yeah, you have to be able to respond, you have to, like you said, with the RCMP,
Absolutely.
they have to have a certain proximity.
Yeah.
Well, see, like
Councillor Barnes, do you want
I'm
to
gonna
say
say, like the ambulance service, they have to live it within 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the community
Certain
rate,
All right.
a little different. So,
Councillor Peavoy?
At this point, I'm prepared to move to direct administration to proceed with the hiring of a level 1 peace officer.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. And very timely, we have our first delegation. John, come on up.
It's not much of a delegation.
But you're still a delegation in our rooms.
I really didn't have a lot to say. I was just going to be here to answer some questions if there was any.
Okay, John, maybe you want to kind of address the topic of your coming to council, because we're on camera, so maybe a lot of people were following us to understand a little bit. It has to do with the development of 11th Street.
Right.
So maybe you want to go a little bit, the history of it is fairly long and date from 2 councils ago, where it was started under Mayor Moses or something like that. And today, if I understand properly, you're trying to develop, subdivide a very large lot, and you need road access, essentially, in a nutshell. Would that be correct? Okay. So,
Well, in the past 10 years, I've been trying to get something done up there. And it was before 2010 that council had promised me twice, on 2 occasions, that they would get the road done up there. And it never did happen. Of course, that wasn't, like I said, that wasn't when Jeff was around, but Marion Carlson was around. And they told me they were going to do it in the fall of 1 year. I don't remember the year, it's been so long now. It was prior to this letter. And that they were going to get that done. It never happened in the fall, but they promised me it would be done in the spring. It didn't happen in the spring, and it didn't happen in the summer, the following summer. It was after that when we went to council again, and it was going to happen. We were going to get it done. I think the town was going ahead with the surveying of it, but they couldn't get the access off of 2nd Avenue from Weston. So that's when they wrote this letter to me. And that's kind of where it is, other than the fact that now we have the access. It's off of 3rd, we acquired the land, and we've got all of the neighbors up there in agreement that allow
Okay.
11th Street to go through on their property.
okay, so here is maybe one question for you. You say all the neighbors are in agreement. Do you have a written agreement from them that is current? That is current?
Sure.
Did you want to?
She's okay.
I didn't bring one for everybody, I guess they can go to call.
We can take her word.
Yeah.
But that's 2013. Do you
Yes,
have
but it's on
anything?
title. It's on title. Everybody up there signed it. It's on their titles that they will allow the 11th Street to go through. So it's all registered on everybody's title that signed that. If you-
No change since
All
then.
right.
No,
So,
no, there's
do
no
you
change
have,
since then.
Councillor, do you have any question? Of course, what has changed from the time that you started to 3 councils ago? It's the change in councils and the change of direction from councils, which is maybe unfortunate for anybody who has to go through those changes. We suffer the same thing when government change. Provincially, we have the same issue with different things.
Well, I understand that
So-
this is a different council.
So that is different. What is different is that in the past, there was no policy regarding developers and levies and all that stuff. Today, we do have a policy, and we try to be true to that policy. So that is what the big difference is from 3 councils
I
ago
understand that.
and today.
The
So
di-
that is where the difficulty is for you at this point.
The difference that I see between when this all started and now is that we're dealing with multiple landowners. It's different than Schaefer Investments going up and buying a couple acres of land and putting a road through on it, on our land that we purchased. And yes, I would think that I would have to develop the road and the utilities on that. This one started a long time ago, and I think if the town ever wants to see any kind of development, the town, is what I said 10 years ago, the town needs to be involved in helping out with the utilities in the road and the surveying of it. Or they'll never ever see anything done up there.
Okay,
And I just figured that they put it in writing, they should do it. If I put something in writing, I have to do it. As a developer or as a business person.
yeah, like I said, the writing, unfortunately, as you know, every time a government change, what has been written once is not always automatically honored. In fact, it can be overturned.
I wish I could not honor everything that I put in
Yeah.
writing if I sold my company to the next
Unfortunately,
person.
politics being politics is why they change the government, right? But it's not that I would try to be contrary, it's to try to help you understand why things are not exactly the same. And 3 councils ago, they had a difficulty.
Well, I understand
I
the
agree,
policies are
yeah.
not the same, and
Yeah.
you've just changed, the
Right.
policies have been changed.
Right.
I understand that.
No, but I understand what you're trying to do also. So let's give councillors a chance to ask you questions if they want.
Along with your comments, and John, we need to understand that one council cannot tie the hands of another council. And may. But I remember when we first started investigating a road of 11th Street, we're going to bring it off 2nd Avenue, go past that shop. What's the name, had that shop up there? Hartley had that shop, and there was going to be a dog leg that had to go in there. And then one landowner to the west of that shop was not in agreement, and I think you're aware of that. And it sort of put to rest and went into another council. But there was some proposals going from 2nd Avenue into that, all the way up to whatever that little dead lake is, they call it up there. You know, and then it would tie all the way through to 9th.
To the 12th.
Yeah, well, it goes straight south all the way to 9th, eventually, you know.
Through Clark's.
Right. And then we could foresee if we brought it off 12th and hooked it onto 3rd Avenue, we've got 6 miles of road race straight through to Main Street, you know, and it would be a straight through Main Street. So that was another, you know, situation we were concerned about. Concerned about water drainage, what we're going to do with spring runoff. Because we always have water up there, you're aware of that. And so there's been a lot of things, but if we can address those kind of issues, I think we can.
Well, essentially, councillor, what we need to do, we need to
Exactly.
talk about that. We need to make sure we have all the facts and understand the facts, and then we will have to discuss what we'll do.
I think what Mr. Schaefer's saying here is that, you know, he started this process back when the town was developing roads, and I think he's saying he'd like to be grandfathered. So I guess if I can ask a question to administration, what was the last road that the town actually developed
owned all the land.
You purchased it off Scales.
Yeah. So we developed 2A, but we're the recipient of all the proceeds of the sale.
So
So it's a little bit different.
Just trying to see, okay, so the Scout thing, Scout Rail Warren, and what was the time frame on
We did
that?
a little bit on Second West up into the industrial.
Yeah, there was one owner that already owned, but other than that, we own it all
Right.
through there. 10th Street, if you went back to 10th where John lives now. So that would have been one, I mean, it's not a fully developed road either, but that's one where the town wouldn't have owned any land on either side of that, but probably did the bulk of the development on it. Would that sound right, John?
And that was done in
Would have been the late 90s, I
It was
think.
98, I think.
Yeah, 98. So, and again, that one, John could speak to this better than I could, but that was one. And then some gravel on the path through the field, and then, you know, we could probably start from scratch on that road and build it properly. It's gravel.
Well, from what the town has spent on that road, the park got a lot more taxes back on some pretty nice homes up. Been there, you wouldn't have to people build
So
that.
essentially, John, if I understand, you feel that because there are multiple owners, the town has an obligation in your own mind, to pay for road and infrastructure.
Yes, and what they've told me that they would do,
Okay.
yes. as a
So
council.
that was your understanding
Back
months
then.
ago, like
And my
7 years ago or
Right.
8 years ago? Okay, all right.
He told me.
Okay, thank you. Then that is your understanding. We will have to look at our policy, really look at understanding what we intend to do and let you know. So thank you for coming.
It's available.
I have one more question. Go ahead, Councillor.
Was prepared at this time, if there was a road put in there, to develop a property at this point in time.
It's got nothing to do with,
Ready and prepared to do that.
I'm ready.
The reason why I asked
People
that-
don't want to buy them.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is very simply this. You put one development in there and all of a sudden somebody sees it and says, hey, it's a nice place to build, I can build there. You see it all over Lethbridge, I see it all over Lethbridge.
And we did that at the golf course, Schaefer Investments.
Okay,
We built the first duplex in there, and that's kind of what started that first phase of the
yeah,
development.
okay.
If I could, Mayor, John, just so it's clear, I've seen a couple variations, but it's been a long time. Did you have, on your parcel west of your house, are you planning on 2 or 4 lots? I've seen a couple different things. 4. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure.
So altogether, the multiple owners that we're talking about, how many possible lots are there?
Well, I don't want to really count them up, because I think some of the landowners are in different stages than me. And the other ones.
Because some might
have
not
more
be ready to develop anything for a long time.
Some of them might not,
Yeah.
but if the
Not
road's
that-
not there, it'll never happen.
Yeah, I understand.
Just if I use the old structure plan, John has 4.
But he says he's not going to do
Yeah,
that.
and I know he's not anxious, but under the plan, he'd have 4. And then Gary Sanderson actually has a cul-de-sac that would, third A would continue and be a dead end and a bulb in a
It
cul-de-sac.
wouldn't
He
go
has
through.
about 12 lots.
Yeah.
Actually, that bylaw was amended and third A could actually go right through.
Under that,
Okay.
So there's probably 4, 8, hypothetically another 10 or 11, so maybe 20 along that chunk.
Okay.
See, Sanderson probably isn't going to do anything, but his land is up for sale. We would
John, thank you very much for coming and for addressing this difficult situation. One more
Yeah,
time.
I mean, I keep coming back on it. I hate beating the dead horse here because it's been dead for about 10 years. And it just would be nice to get something done. I know we won't get anything done if we don't get the road up there. And maybe it might take a while, but I think the lots that I would have would be developed. I think at some point we're going to develop the lots that we have done right now.
Third Avenue.
5 lots there on Third Avenue. And I've heard 1 or 2 other people that from different landowners that might build up there. I think it could be good for taxes.
Except the chance to recoup the tax on that is probably 25 to 30 years down the line.
Why do you say that? Why?
Because the cost of a road and all the utilities and recouping, let's say, even $3,500 tax a year by 20 houses, you can see how long you have to really go at it in order to recoup your capital, right?
We just put a road in up there, went up Third, and if you were to take and turn it, I know there's about maybe twice as much if you did. I don't know if a person would need to do that one right this minute. Around and went up to where my property is. It certainly wouldn't cost that much to actually have it done, but while I was doing it, I would have it surveyed, the whole thing surveyed off, but the road wouldn't have to be all built right that second. When we took the utilities up Third Avenue for those 5 lots, I made sure we took them up far enough that it actually went to the center of the road so it could turn and go that way. And I think that it would cost what people might have in their mind that it's going to cost, like thousands and thousands.
What's your ballpark figure?
Well, I know what we paid for ours. So if
I was just going to say, until Mr. Schaefer's presentation, we haven't done current costs on that length,
all right, so we have
So
no
if
idea.
council wants us to pursue that, obviously we sure can.
Yeah.
But I hadn't pursued it at this point.
Okay, thank you.
There's an estimate here from 2009 that says 2.2 million.
Yeah, the issue with that one is it included the entire cost to the road. It put in the storm system, which was specific. I gotta be honest, I don't necessarily agree with
All
that.
right, so let's not bounce figures, might be irrelevant at this point. John, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Bye. All right. On with 7B at this point. Meetings with a minister. All I'm give you a chance to have a visit with the ministers, but in order to be useful visit, have an issue. If you don't have a plan or an issue, I would say it's a nice invite, but let's not waste our time. But there is something that for me is important, and that is still a telephone call with the minister on August 15 with Jeff. And we need to follow it up. That is one for sure.
What department are we on that? Health? Or are we in infrastructure? Which department are we currently?
With the hospital?
Yeah, with the hospital.
Oh, sorry.
Right now we're still with the Alberta Health. They are the one who to Alberta infrastructure to get a business plan. Without the business case, you cannot move.
Just based on our past not including last year meetings. The two that stand out is health. Access issue.
Yeah, the highway access, Jeff will be able to kind of brief us a little bit on that, maybe at a further, the next meeting or so.
But we can talk about it in the West Industrial discussion too.
Sure. Yeah, no, I don't really think so either.
So that, and really when we're meeting with ministers, what we're trying to do is get the political machine to move in our direction that way.
Well, we've never met with these ministers, so.
There is potentially possibility with a Minister of Services, Human Services, if we can get something looked after internally first. So if we have a